We're going to define fantasy and reality because they're a bit intertwined, and by splitting them both apart and looking at them separately, we can more easily transition from one phase to the other, from fantasy to reality, so we can see the world with a clear lens, or from reality back into fantasy as a tool. Now, what do I mean by the latter? Well, let's take it for example, back in high school or whenever you were young, you probably developed a crush on your classmate. Now, how did that happen? When you develop a crush, you probably haven't talked to the person a lot. You probably don't get to know them. They're mysterious to you, and by the fact of them being mysterious, you start to fantasize what they're really like, and you add all these positive qualities onto them. Like you start to idealize them, put them up on a pedestal. So this is one example of how you can use fantasy to your advantage. Like men with women, for example, need to be mysterious. You need to be vague. You need to not let on too much at once, so their minds can, fantasize and idealize you and build this idea of you that's in a positive light. And also, I heard a statistic that for an exchange program, those foreign exchange programs, 1 in 4 people that goes on exchange gets married. Now, like you have to consider the cultural differences, the language barriers, but I think it's because of the same factor, because, people have a fascination with culture. They fantasize about different cultures, and that's why you're more prone to get married with a person that's from another exotic place, so to speak. And it's amazing, like how powerful it is, how powerful fantasy is, because it's a part of human nature. That's the most important thing to take from this video, that it's a part of human nature. What we're trying to undo here is the social engineering brought on by a religious upbringing or by ideologies like feminism or those so-called liberal progressives. We want to undo the damage so we can see the world clearly. We can see the world for what it is. Because to be honest with you guys, I lived on 3 different continents. North America and Europe are the exception, not the rule, of how things are typically run. Uh, for example, you look at this whole like diversity versus merit argument, where big corporations in the West would rather hire people from diverse backgrounds over merit, over how hard someone works, over how productive they are, over how smart they are. And I don't know if they have a point, if it's actually a good thing to hire a diverse crew of people, or if it's just liberal propaganda, to be honest. Well, if you look at other parts of the world, if you look at the high up positions in banks, engineering companies, in countries in Asia or in Africa or the Middle East, these guys love to hire white men. Now look at the contrast here. Have Western companies hiring everybody but white men, and then you have the rest of the world craving for white men to take over managerial positions. Now, I can't speak for the Asian countries, but I know it makes sense in the Middle East because the culture is too relaxed. They want a guy who's like somebody from Northern Europe or the US, a person who's punctual, on time, good management skills, because honestly, Middle Easterners don't have good management skills. But that's the way the rest of the world works, folks, and it's baffling. It's baffling to see this. The exact opposite in the U.S. and Europe, and it's not just that; it's other things as well. And yeah, it's important to be well traveled so you can see the rest of the world for what it is. You don't want to be trapped in your own bubble, right? By seeing the rest of the world, experiencing other cultures, other views, you can prevent yourself from being, I guess, indoctrinated, so to speak, or engineered or influenced by one ideology over the other, right? Which is what we're trying to prevent here. And yeah, well, what else can I add? I guess I can only say that, the real world is harsh. It's, uh, it's more cutthroat. It's not like Disney World, like in the U.S. and Europe. Hopefully, you guys understand the power and the pull of fantasy, so you're aware of how deep in denial a person can be, including ourselves. So I'm gonna end this video with a quote from the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. The truth is often avoided because it is ugly and unpleasant. Never appeal to truth and reality, unless you are prepared for the anger that comes from disenchantment. Life is so harsh and distressing that people who can manufacture romance or conjure up fantasy are like oases in the desert. Everyone flocks to them. There is great power in the tapping into the fantasies of the masses.